This video illustrates an alternative use of statistical clustering that is especially useful when the number of conditions is limited. I take an example from a student project here at Industrial Design. Specifically, the student had 9 different attributes or questions that she was using to analyze 8 different products that were bracelets that would support active living. And so she asked 5 subjects to actually rate the 8 bracelets on these 9 attributes. So when we read this data, so the design is actually indicates 1 of 2 8 is the bracelets and the 9 questions are blending variables. So after reading the data, we have 9 attributes for 8 different conditions. So we're going to look at 2D patterns because we want to understand the relationship between these attributes. So we see that there's only one cluster, and the traditional way of looking at it to see how these questions are, you can see that the questions are a little bit all over the space, so they do take different aspects of the products. But we don't see the products themselves. So there's a second rendering using GNU-plot being made on my second screen. And that rendering not only shows basically the same gains. So you have 4 vectors which correspond to these 4 points and the other ones. But now we indicate, instead of indicating the gains themselves, we indicate the directions, and the length of the vector indicates how well these projections correlate with the original measurements. But in addition, we show the 8 conditions, which are the 8 bracelets that were used in the design. Now this looks a bit mathematical, so let's take a nicer rendering that the student made from these data, showing both the bracelets being compared and the different attributes. And so there are basically 2 ways in which this information can be used. One is what I call evolutionary. You could say, okay, well, I want a bracelet that is more feminine but equally sportive. So sportive is the horizontal axis, that means everything that's on the vertical axis is considered to be equally sportive. So more feminine would be, can I find a bracelet which is here instead of there? Another use, which I call more revolutionary, you can see that for all the bracelets that are there, you can see that masculine and feminine are actually kind of opposite attributes, or feminine and sportive. So another way to use this kind of insight is saying that would it be possible to make bracelets for which this is not the case? Obviously this is not the case for any of these 8 bracelets, but could I make a bracelet for which that is no longer the case? That would be basically a bracelet that doesn't fit into that plane here, but that is actually should be positioned outside of this plane. That's why it's called a revolutionary design.